Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the CruitCast. I'm Jason Sukamel. That's Cole Patterson. We're back, Cole, after a busy weekend. First off, busy weekend recruiting-wise for Texas. Busy weekend for you, man. Cole, for those who don't know, and probably nobody knows, we haven't talked about it. His brother got married last weekend. Cole was in the wedding and
Yeah.
family stuff, and then Cole gets a bug. So, Cole, you had one of those weeks like I had, I think, the week before where just all
Yeah.
hell broke loose.
I guess it was my turn for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's almost everybody's turn at some point
Yeah,
this fall. Every family I know is having uh, bugs going through their house. So hopefully you and my family got it out of the way and
for sure.
we can move on. But yeah, appreciate everybody coming back to another episode of the CruitCast. As always, like the video, subscribe to our channel here, and as always, get you some prime shrimp there at primeshrimp.com. $20 off your first order. Just use that promo code, Orange Bloods. I sit here, Cole, as you mentioned, in my new
Yeah,
old Rivals.com shirt.
looks
As
good.
I as I told Cole off air, I was cleaning out my closet. My wife was gone. I was just bored one day last week, so I was like, I got all these shirts that I never wear, right, in my
Mm.
closet. It's like I'm just gonna anything I haven't worn in a while, I'm gonna get rid of. So I was just cleaning, throwing crap on the floor, getting rid of it. And this shirt and a couple others were tucked way in the back of my closet. And I was like, man, I forgot I had this shirt's probably seriously 10 years old, Cole. Thanks. I can still fit into it even. How about that,
Yeah,
man?
there you go.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, I'm a big Pittsburgh Steeler fan. Rivals had a deal like 10 years ago where we could order shirts, like different colors. So I got a blue and white one. I even got a burnt orange one to wear to work functions. Then I had to give me a Steelers color Rivals.com shirt. So yeah, that's the explanation for the gold and black shirt today. But all right, Cole, let's talk about the things that people really want to hear about. You were so busy last weekend. I get it, and you had a lot of things, other more important things going on. But it was a big recruiting weekend for
Yeah.
Texas in terms of the guys they had in, the number of guys, and we'll go through some of the individual guys here in a bit. But I want to talk to you just about your overall feel, man. That was a huge opportunity for Texas to take a big step forward. I mean, a colossal step forward in getting this program back, just in terms of momentum and national relevance. Texas goes out there. I feel like we've said this 2 or 3 times this year when they've had opportunities. They go out and stub their toe. They lose to TCU. No shame in that necessarily. I mean, Texas was a touchdown favorite, but they lose to TCU in a way the offense was awful. They scored 3 points on offense in the whole game. So just not a very good showing on national television in front of a sold out crowd, in front of a bunch of big time recruits. I don't know, man. I've kind of talked to some people, Colin. I don't want to say it was a catastrophic loss by any means, but it certainly feels like a missed opportunity to me. Kind of, what's your vibe, man? Just kind of seeing that from a distance, Texas not capitalizing on what was a tremendous opportunity.
Yeah, it kind of feels like a gut punch for sure. I mean, I wouldn't say it's the end of the world because they could still end the season on a high note. There's still, like 5, 6 more weeks till signing day, so there's some time to kind of make up some ground. But definitely, like you said, it feels like a missed opportunity. I kind of get the same feeling that I did like after the Red River rivalry game last year. Where they were up big and a lot of recruits were in attendance and paying attention, and they obviously ended up losing, and A&M beat Alabama that night. It's kind of a similar feeling. Just they had College Game Day, TCU, number 4 in the country, coming into town. You got Javian Toviano on campus. Who
I don't
weren't
think Javian made it in, actually. He's one of the ones that ended up not making it in, but we can go down the list. There are 100 other guys there, yeah.
Yeah, a bunch of guys come in. Those big official visitors that made it in from out of state. Pretty much all eyes were on the game on the Longhorns, see how they performed. Yeah, the attention of some of these national recruits. Arch Manning in town. All the hype was there, and it was there for the taking for Texas. Kind of capitalized on it, and then I was watching the game, like you said. I was at a wedding, and there was not to party, all of that. But I thought the defense played really well. They had chances to win the game, but it seemed like the offense never could really get going, and that's not what you want to see, with Sark being an offensive guy, Quinn being the quarterback he's supposed to be, all of that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, it definitely seems like a missed opportunity, but there's some more weekends, more chances to capitalize and kind of rebound. But, yeah, it's hard not to feel like a gut punch was there on Saturday.
It makes this weekend even more important. You can't go up and lose to Kansas And I get it. Kansas is a pretty
Mhm.
good team this year, and I think they're
It's
going to
not a
get their
bad Kansas
quarterback.
team. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a bad at all. I mean, and when Jalen Daniels was at quarterback, and I think he'll be there this week, what I'm hearing, it was a
Mhm.
pretty good Kansas team, an undefeated Kansas team for a while. So,
Yeah.
but still, it's Kansas. It's still the perception. If you lose to Kansas, that's not going to look good. And then
And it's like back-to-back losses as well.
back-to-back
Yeah.
losses, you're looking at potentially a 500 season then if you can't then handle Baylor. So this is
Mhm.
a big, weirdly, a kind of a big weekend. But you're right, man. It was a bit of a gut punch for Texas, and we've had this conversation. I mean, A&M's down, Oklahoma loses again. I mean, Texas has such an opportunity to like
Yeah.
just seize hold of this state in this region, even, and they just keep stumbling when the chips are on the table. And there's
Seems
so
like
many
every
different.
time they have a chance to kind of pull away, it's like they get brought back down.
Yes, I keep saying like it's sometimes you stay 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Yeah.
No, it's almost 1 step forward, 1 step back. They're just kind of,
Mhm.
just treading water almost.
Yeah.
There's different perspectives. You got Arch Manning coming in, and I'm sure he would much prefer to see the offense marching up and down the field. But
Sure.
then on the flip side, Arch is probably like, hey, I can come in and help, or some of these receivers, But on defensively, Anthony Hill is sitting there watching that game, and he's like, okay, it
Yeah.
sucks that they lost, and the offense looks bad, but the defense looks
Yeah.
really good. So, different perspectives maybe from some of these different visitors. But let's talk about some of these visitors, Cole. That's probably what people want to hear about the most. So, and we'll start with Anthony Hill, the five-star linebacker from Denton Ryan. He comes in for an unofficial visit. Like you said, the defense played great. I was able to connect with Anthony's father on Sunday, I guess it was the day after the visit, and he told me, hey, it was a really good visit. They kind of got questions answered, got to see what they wanted to see. The defense played really well. He mentioned that, but not like they're sitting here close to a decision. It doesn't seem like. His dad said they may take another visit, go back to A&M for a look, may go to Alabama for a visit. Nothing was set up as of when we were communicating on Sunday, but those were possible stops. There was some chatter last week, and listen, I heard it from, I would guess 5, maybe a half dozen people, independent from one another, like people who don't know each other. There was a lot of chatter going on that maybe Anthony Hill was going to commit before the game on Saturday.
Yeah.
In full disclosure, Cole, I had a commitment story written and ready to go in case it popped, right?
Yeah.
He's on the field and, I don't know, commits to Sark or whatever on the field. We've seen it happen before. So I had a commitment story ready. The people that were telling me this, that they had heard he was going to commit, I was like, man, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to go ahead and be ready, but I just thought it just didn't feel right. I thought maybe they would take their time a little bit more with it. And then he ends up not committing. He leaves campus. It was a good visit, but in talking to some sources, it does feel like Texas just wasn't able to close the door maybe, and a missed opportunity there. Maybe Texas swung and missed a little bit, and he's just not fully convinced. So, I don't know. I'm kind of reading the tea leaves on that one, Cole, and I still think Texas is in a good spot. I don't see him going back to A&M, recommitting to A&M. Maybe he goes for a visit, but listen, did you decommitted for a reason? Are you going to recommit, a month later? That would be
Very common that happens.
not at all. I mean, and usually if a guy recommits, it's I'm going to decommit, and then 6 months later I recommit, not a month later, right? But I'm telling you, Alabama, if you're a Texas fan, if he winds up visiting Alabama again, he's been there on an official visit, excuse me. If he goes back for an unofficial visit, Alabama could be a bit worrisome in this, right? Am I alone in thinking that?
No, I mean, it's Nick Saban. You can hardly ever count him out. He's been after a couple of Texas commits, it seems like. And obviously, Anthony Hill isn't a commit, but is a guy that you feel like, I think we both have a future cast in for Texas. But if he does take that visit to Alabama, it's kind of hard to turn them down. Sky's falling out in Tuscaloosa on a 2-loss season. So, I mean, kind of shows what the standards and expectations are there. They're number 6 or 7 or whatever, 8, whatever it is in the college football playoff poll. And it seems like it's the end of the world out there. So, there's a standard out there that everybody knows about. They have no shortage of NFL talent. If Nick Saban wants you, especially if you're on defense, really any position, especially on defense, it's difficult to turn them down. But yeah, I'm kind of with you. We touched on Anthony Hill last week. Maybe he commits, but I think we were both pretty hesitant that actually does happen. It just seems to go against how they handle much of the process. Excuse me. It seems like they pretty level headed. They don't really get caught up in the emotions. They have a plan. I guess there was always a chance he could, commit on the spot or whatever the case was if he already had his mind made up. But yeah, if he does take that visit to Alabama, I think I don't know if you reported somewhere. I think I read somewhere that Ohio State might be trying to get in the door there as well. If he takes any of those visits, but especially Alabama, who was up there in the top of his recruitment for a while. I think they were in his top 5 as well before he committed. So definitely, cause of concern if he does. But as of right now, I still think Texas should be viewed as a leader, but it's definitely not the slam dunk. And I think you emphasized that a lot last week. That it's not, door's not shut until it, pen hits the paper.
Yeah. He said he's been pretty open, or he was before his commitment to A&M, that he wants to stay in state, close to home. So, you got it. If you're Texas, you still have to hope that's a factor. And if it is, obviously that sets up well for Texas. I tell you the big negative, Cole, I didn't even realize this. Denton Ryan lost in the first round of the playoffs last week.
Yeah.
So that frees his weekends up. I mean, if he wants to go to Alabama or Ohio State, that frees him up. I mean, if you're a Texas fan, you would have liked for Denton Ryan to make a deep playoff run, so his weekends are pretty well taken. But it's funny you mentioned the Alabama thing. I went and met with the Longhorn. There's a group called the Longhorn Lunch Bunch, and known these guys for 15, 20 years. And I pop in periodically to see them. And went there yesterday and had lunch, and or actually just hung out. And as mentioned, of course, they're asking about Anthony Hill, and we're talking about the same things you and I are talking about. And I mentioned Alabama. I said, I'm telling you, man, watch out for Alabama. That's a sneaky play there.
Yeah.
And one of the guys said, yeah, but they're not having a very good year either. I'm like, they won 2 games. I'm like, their worst year is better than, no offense, Texas fans watching this. But
both losses came on the last play of the game.
Yes, exactly. So it's like, all right, like let's slow down. They're not Alabama's not exactly falling off the cliff here, man. They'll be just fine. Cole, let's transition. Jelani McDonald was another player for Waco Connolly that came in it was an unofficial visit. It was not an official visit. He's going to I actually talked to Jelani. He came in, of course, for the game Saturday, and Jelani's a kind of a linebacker, defensive back hybrid type player. Texas looking at him more of a linebacker, former Oklahoma State commitment. I talked to him on Sunday, really good visit, but he was another guy, man. We heard he might commit on the visit. There was some confidence, I think, in the football offices, if you will, that Jelani McDonald might make a decision while on campus. Well, I don't know. Jelani had told me prior to the visit, he's going to take his time, and it looks like he's sticking to that plan. He told me he's going to visit TCU. I think it's the 9th, and then he'll visit December 9th, and then he'll visit Texas, I think, on the 17th or the 16th, I guess it would be, for official visits. And then he wants to decide after those visits. Don't discount TCU. I mean, history, Texas wins the majority of those recruitments, but with what's going on with TCU this year and just talking to Jelani McDonald, TCU is very much a factor in that one. So Texas has their work cut out for them a little bit. Bravion Rogers, not a lot to report there. This is the A&M commitment, of course, from LaGrange. It was interesting. I texted with Bravion a little bit, and he responded, and I said, hey, did you wind up making it in for the game? He said he did. I said, hey, what stood out for you? What were the highlights? And I could pull the text up. I don't have it in front of me. But he said, the crowd and the atmosphere, and it was a defense looked great. Just, great visit overall. Bing, 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 we're going back and forth on texting, right? And then my next follow-up immediately, it wasn't like I waited 20 minutes. Immediately, I said, okay. I said, hey, last question, Bravion. I said, are you still locked in with A&M, or is there a chance that this, might give you something to consider? And he went just dead silent on me. So, to me, that's a good sign for Texas, dude, because if he was locked in for A&M, it would have been pretty easy for him to just say, nope, I'm locked in, shutting it down. But he didn't, so maybe that leaves the door open for Texas. Am I wrong?
I mean, the fact that he just made the visit shows at least there's, at least a crack in the door. How big of a crack there is remains to be seen. But, I think has to be some legitimate interest there. And like I said, even though they lost, the defense played really well for really the entire game. I just have a couple plays. But if he saw that defense performance, he was on campus. I'm sure they laid out the red carpet for him. All that kind of shows that he's at least a little bit interested.
And it's kind of a weird recruitment anyways. He decommitted from A&M or commits to A&M, decommits from A&M, and then recommits to A&M. And he's flirted with LSU. Now he comes up and visits Texas.
If I remember correctly, he like committed A&M initially, like kind of out of the blue almost.
Yeah, like less than a week after they offered, he went ahead.
Yeah, I think he told you. I think at the relays maybe that he was gonna wait maybe until the summer or something, and then A&M offers, and he almost jumps on it, and then opens back up. And yeah, kind of interesting recruitment for sure.
Yeah, usually when a kid gets an offer and then commits like within a few days or a week, that kind of tells you, okay, he's probably always wanted to go to that school.
Yeah.
So Bravian's kind of like bucked a few trends here. He's, he does that and then he decommits, but then he recommits to the same school. And now he's kind of got a wandering eye a little bit. So I don't know, man, I got a sneaky suspicion that one is not over, but, I wasn't able to get direct confirmation from Bravion. So let's talk, Cole. I want to go through some of these official visitors. And then I got a couple of Texas commitments that we'll talk about before we wrap it up. But we'll start with DeAndre Moore, the wide receiver out of St. John Bosco out in California. Comes in for an official visit that's been in the works for a while. He'd been to Texas previously, and he's committed to Louisville. And he said to Rivals.com pretty recently, he said, hey, Texas probably was his second choice. Comes in for an official visit. I haven't talked to DeAndre, but Adam Gorney from Rivals.com did talk to him. And he just said, hey, it was a great visit. He loves Sark and Sark's history with receivers. Unfortunately, Texas didn't back that up with the performance on the field, right? But he loves Sark's history of producing receivers and big-time talent, has a really good relationship with a lot of the Texas staff members, and has since like middle school, he said, since 8th grade. So he did visit Georgia the week before the Texas visit. And maybe even, if you're kind of reading his tone, maybe even raved about Georgia a bit more than Texas. So I thought that was interesting. Still committed to Louisville, and I think he's going back to Louisville this weekend, Cole, for an unofficial visit. Still some moving parts in that one. I think NIL is probably going to wind up being a big deal, but Texas made a good enough impression, but they're just going to have to keep chipping away, I think, in order to sign DeAndre Moore. Another receiver that was in, Jacoby Lane, out of Arizona. I actually texted Jacoby just a little bit ago, and it's, as we record this, it's still pretty early where he is, but not that early. They're an hour behind us, but I did connect with him on Sunday, just super briefly. Called him up, and he answered the phone. He's still committed. He's committed to USC, by the way, Southern Cal. But he was still on his official visit when he answered the phone. I'm like, okay, dude, I don't want to interview you while you're on your visit. So, but he clearly was having a good time just based on the background noise and everything else. So
he answered.
Yeah, so was I. Maybe he thought it was somebody else. Maybe he thought it was a coach or somebody. I don't know.
Yeah.
So nothing more weird than when you call a recruiter and they're like, hey, coach. And you're like, no, dude, I'm not a coach. Yes, I could probably play it up like I am and maybe talk to you a little bit more. But no, I'm like, I always have to clarify. Hey, just want to clarify, I'm not a coach. I'm a journalist trying to just cover your story, man. But Jacoby Lane, haven't connected with him. I hope to maybe have more for the War Room. We'll see on Orange Bloods tonight. He's been pretty quiet, but he was pretty active on social media during the visit, saying how much he liked it. My little brief conversation clearly made a good impression. Texas did on the visit, and he was having fun, but still committed to USC. So we'll have to see what kind of impact Texas can make there. Deuce Robinson, the big tight end out of Phoenix Pinnacle. Deuce is a guy that just doesn't tip his hand much. And even people that I talked to that spent time with him this weekend said, he had a smile on his face all the time and just looked like he was having fun. He's very, connected with Archer Manning, but doesn't tip his hand much. USC is still a major player there. He visited Georgia a couple weeks ago. Some people I talked to think Georgia may have surged in front of USC. I think Texas made a good impression. I was told he did meet with the Texas baseball staff. He's a legitimate big-time baseball prospect, and they think that visit went well on the baseball side of things. And I think I said this before, Cole. I said, hey, if Texas has any hope of winning that race, baseball is going to have to be a factor, okay? The baseball team's going to have to do a good job, and I feel like they did. Now, is it enough to get Texas over the hump against schools like USC and Georgia, and I think Alabama may still be involved, maybe Oregon too, I think, are the fifth. I don't know the answer to that yet. I don't think anybody knows the answer to that yet, probably even including Deuce. And I'm kind of filibustering here, Cole, because I talked to all these guys and you were busy over the weekend, so pardon me. But the last one is Marcus Deal, the defensive lineman out of Naaman Forest. I was able to connect with Marcus's dad, who's also a coach at Naaman Forest, just to talk about the visit. And boy, it sounds like it was a really good visit. They got a lot of time to, hang out with the coaches, hang out with the players, get some questions answered. His dad mentioned they spent some time with Sark's wife, with Bo Davis's wife, and came very impressed with just the family feel of this program. So I think Marcus is still undecided, and I haven't talked to Marcus directly. I'm going to kind of giving him some breathing room. I may hit him up this weekend or something, but I still think it's going to come down to Texas and TCU. I've been saying that for a while. I think Georgia's kind of hanging around the periphery there, but I think it'll be Texas or TCU. TCU's kind of proven to be a bit of a thorn in the side for Texas this cycle. They're making this staff work quite a bit, but I think it's still kind of undecided. His dad did tell me like Marcus will probably decide by the end of this month. So we're 2 weeks out. So
Thanksgiving's next week, which is kind of crazy to think about.
What is next week?
Thanksgiving is next week.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, we ended today, right?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
You keep up, man. Yeah, that's right. Sad that I keep up on my days. Like, okay, it's War Room Day, or it's like Day, or whatever, man.
Modcast.
I couldn't tell you. Like, I'm not even gonna look in the corner. If you ask me what the actual date is today, I think we're probably in the teens, but I don't even know, man. Like November something teen, maybe. I don't mean the 20s. I don't know, Cole. I can't keep up with hour to hour, much less day to day or week to week.
Signing day will be right around the corner.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, be here before we know it, man. So those were the official visitors, Cole. Couple last little things I want to talk about before we sign off. A couple Texas commitments. Jonte Cook was at the game, and after the game, he posted some stuff on social media that just kind of opened eyes, including on his Instagram story a picture of him in an Alabama uniform, must have been from a previous visit. Listen, these recruits kind of like to play games and keep people guessing, but like the fact that Jonte did that shortly after the game when the Texas offense really struggled, Jonte's been pretty open when I've talked to him about, hey, as long as Texas plays well, there's nothing to be worried about. But he comes in, the offense did not play well. They really haven't played that well, not consistently well anyways, for the last several games. Boy, Texas better tighten that up a little bit and play better on offense, or they're going to really have to fight, I think, to hold on to Jonte. Am I reading too much into his social media activity?
I mean, I do think Jonte's a guy that likes to, rile the fans up, have the attention and all of that. And he has been committed since the summer. So, I mean, I'm sure there's part of him that misses kind of the recruiting attention and all of that.
Arch being there with him had to have helped, you would think. But
yeah, that's where I keep coming back to. I think as long as, Arch stays committed, which I see no reason why he would decommit. As long as Arch is there, I'm not too worried about Jonte. I think they're pretty tied in together. Jonte's always been really open about playing with him. But, yeah, I mean, you feel a lot better if Texas went out there and scored 30 points for sure. You definitely want more or better offensive performances in the year. But unless there's something crazy that happens, I do think Jonte will remain at Texas.
Yeah, I do too. But the only thing that would be concerning, and I haven't heard this, just to be clear, I'm just speculating on what Jonte might be thinking. If he's looking at this offense struggling and he goes, they got Quinn Ewers, an all-world quarterback, supposedly, and they're struggling. What's to tell me that it's going to be different when Arch Manning is getting there, So I think, like you said, Jonte likes to kind of poke the bear a little bit, and get people riled up and have a little fun. And, Jonte's a fun kid just to talk to. And he kind of knows what he's doing. But I don't think there's anything to be worried about. But he's, like I said, he's told me before, when he visited Oregon a few weeks or probably a month and a half ago at this point, I said, hey, does Texas have anything to be worried about? Because no, man, as long as Texas plays well. And at the time he said, hey, handles Oklahoma and does what they need to do. And they did. But then since then they've had a couple stumbles. So keeping an eye on it. I don't think there's anything to be worried about, but worth keeping an eye on. And the last thing, Cole, is Dylan Spencer, the Texas defensive line commitment. Like rumors started flying around. I think it was on Monday, like that he might be looking at decommitting, and I think another website reported it. And then Orange Blood's like we heard, or not we, me and you, but somebody else on our staff was like, "Hey, I'm hearing he might have actually decommitted." I'm like, privately and quietly, I'm like, "Okay, that's what surprised me a little bit." But I did hit up Dylan Spencer's coach and Dylan, and his coach hit me back right away. Thank you, coach. To his credit, he was like, "Absolutely not true, not in all capital letters, exclamation point." Dylan then responded about an hour later. He goes, "No, I'm still committed." I said, "Hey, does Texas have anything to be worried about? Are you still locked in?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm locked in." So, I'm certainly taking his coach and Dylan at his word. I mean, we'll kind of from a distance keep an eye on that situation in case anything changes. I don't know where that rumor really even popped up from, but it was
Yeah.
floating around on Monday. Maybe it's because they just, they got Colton Vasek recently. Maybe, I mean, who knows, man? People see something on social media and then this turns into that and blows up. But bottom line is his coach and Dylan Spencer himself both said that Dylan is still firmly committed to Texas. So good news there for Texas fans. So Cole, I feel like we could probably keep going on and on and on. There was a lot
Yeah.
of other visitors there that last weekend, but I think we covered the main things that we needed to talk about. So Cole's still under the weather. So Cole, I want to first off thank you for battling through this CruitCast. You're still not feeling 100%. I want to thank everybody who gives us some of their time each week. Appreciate everybody doing that. And again, like this video, hit that prime shrimp at primeshrimp.com. Go get you some of that delicious prime shrimp and help support our sponsors that help make all these things possible. Thanks to Blake Skaggs behind the scene who produces all of these videos for this Orange Bloods YouTube channel. And again, thanks everyone for watching. Have a great week. We'll see what happens with Texas in Lawrence, Kansas this week. And Cole and I will be back next week for another edition of the CruitCast. Everybody take care and be safe.